So give us a little teaser. What is one thing that people can expect to learn at this meeting on Thursday?
Learn a little bit about lead. I mean, I hate to, I hate to see an agent, or I hate to see anyone for that matter, representing another person, in this case, a buyer, a seller, a tenant, a landlord. And when they ask you a question, you have to answer by saying, I don't know. And when they ask you a pointed question, maybe in this case about lead or lead paint, and you say, I'm not sure, I don't know. What the client is hearing is, it's time for me to find somebody who does know. And it's not that you have to know everything about lead paint, you just have to know where people can get information. And your job as a realtor is not to be a lead policeman, it's not to go find lead in a house. It's to do two things primarily. Give them a disclosure, which is required by law for pre-78 homes, and give them a booklet called How to Protect Lead from your family in the home. And those are really the only two things you need to do as a realtor. But as I said, you're doing all this stuff about lead paint without maybe knowing what lead paint is or lead is. So I like to dig a little deeper, give a little bit of a perspective on what is lead, why was it put in paint, and why is it harmful.
Do you have any stories from your career, which you've been associate broker for more than 20 years? So I'm sure that you have seen lots and lots of things in your career, but do you have any stories specifically about lead-based paint, maybe how you help clients get through issues or anything like that?
In a couple of instances, I've had people come up during the break. This is when we were doing these classes live 150 years ago. But when we were doing the classes live, I would take a break. I would stay up in the front of the class. People could come up and ask questions that maybe they were afraid to ask in front of the entire audience. And sometimes I get people coming up to me to ask me questions with tears in their eyes. And sometimes there'd be pregnant women in the class, and they would be coming up to me white in the face, like, oh my God, petrified. And one of the lines I tell the agents when I'm teaching this class is, listen, I've been accused of trying to scare people in this class, and I am trying to scare you. I'm trying to scare you to be aware of these things. That's all. Too often I think in our business, stuff gets glossed over really quick. It's like, oh, here's the lead paint disclosure, sign here, initial here, sign this. Okay, great, we're all done with that. Now, here's the next one, just sign here, initial here. And the reality is, I think the people are signing and initialing things in a lot of cases that they have no idea what they're signing and initialing. And this is such an important part of our interface, if you will, with the realtor and the homeowner to be, or the tenant to be, that we have a really unique opportunity here to give them some information that they might think, or they might have thought was going to be a scary topic. And after you explain it to them in a very calm, and methodic way, they're like, oh, okay. Well, hey, something, I learned something today. This is great.
We will have Brian Dreyer with the City of Lansing joining us on Thursday as well. And he's going to tell us a little bit about Lead Safe Lansing, which is a program through the city. And there is lots of grant money available to people to get this hazard out of their home, to remediate, do something about it. And we've actually had members of this association who's had clients receive up to $10,000 from the city to help with this problem. So we'll learn a little bit more about that program, who qualifies, how you can get that as well, so that you don't have to, do something drastic like rule out a house that maybe you love, but because it was built before 78, you're leery about it. So
right, and I'm excited to talk to Brian again because I gotta say something. You folks are very lucky to have Lead Safe Lansing there. I go around the country, and every city and state and town thinks they have a mitigation program for lead and lead paint. And the reality of it is, half of them don't have any funding. There's no money available, and it sounds good, but there's really nothing there. Your Lead Safe Lansing program that you have there, very well funded, very well utilized, very well publicized. and have done a lot of great things. I mean, one of the other shocking things I think people, when we talk about lead, and I don't know if Brian will address this, but I certainly do, is people think lead poisoning, that doesn't happen anymore. That was just way back when, and the reality is in the state of Michigan this year, you've had over 4,000 reported cases. Or let's say last year, 2020. And that's a number that has stayed the same. It's come down precipitously from 10, 20 years ago. But that's still a lot of kids that maybe didn't have to get poisoned. And maybe they didn't have to because maybe somebody didn't know. Because I think when children get lead poisoning and when they find out when their doctor tells the parent, and when the doctor tells the parent how, the parent's reaction is generally like this: I didn't know. I didn't know that what we were doing was poisoning our own kids. I didn't know. And that I didn't know thing is still way too prevalent even today. So yeah, I want the realtors to know something. I want them to be able to translate that to their buyers and sellers and tenants and landlords so that we bring this number down to maybe zero eventually. That'd be a great thing.
Amen.